everything that transpires when you say you find out 45 minutes in the game 7 that JT wasn't playing. As a player, I'm going to be frustrated about that.
Yeah.
When you look at the roster or the lineup that was rolled out in a game 7, as a player, I'm going to be frustrated with that. And that's me speaking. So I don't know if y'all feel will have that same sentiment if your coach, the organization comes to you and say one of your guys, your main guy, is not playing 45 minutes before a game 7. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would be...
One of the big mysteries of the offseason unfolded Saturday when Steve Kerr agreed to return to the Warriors. It's a 2-year contract that'll keep Kerr the highest paid head coach in the NBA. Over 12 seasons, Golden State has enjoyed enormous success, winning 4 championships, 6 Western Conference titles, and of course that 73-win regular season back in 2015, 2016. Big Perk, there were no guarantees that Kerr would return. So what's your reaction now that we know he will?
That Steph Curry is going to retire in the Golden State Warriors uniform, because that's the only way that this contract agreement got done, is because Steve Kerr wasn't going to coach anybody else and Steph Curry wasn't going to play for anybody else. So those two are tied together at the hip. And so what this means is that Steph Curry is most likely going to sign a contract extension, and then they're going to reevaluate the roster because they're still going to try to be a title contender and contend for a title. As long as you got Steph Curry, you're trying to go win a championship. And when you look at this roster is not built to win a championship from what they had this previous season. And so now that you got Steve Kerr inked in, they're going to get in the front office together and they're going to make some moves this summer.
Feels kind of poetic that they might finish things up together. By the way, Kerr is a 9-time NBA champion, 5 as a player and 4 as a head coach, and you can guarantee a future Hall of Famer. Great.
So we wanted to give you a chance. He's speaking to the comments that you made on the Cousins podcast. So one, if you could summarize those, but also give us perspective from where you were speaking to JB and the frustration comments from.
Right. So because I have a relationship with Jaylen, I know him and I know how he acts, right? So watching this series, how it unfolds, watching the behavior change and uncharacteristics of who I know Jaylen is. So it looked like he was frustrated to me when you go into the media and you say some of the things that he said, when he go on his streaming platform and say some of those things. This is me having a relationship with him. This is not me, having a conversation. I haven't talked to Jaylen at all about this. I just know my friend. And when I see certain things, I see frustration. So after a 3-1 loss, right, to the Philadelphia 76ers, all this stuff is happening, and I'm seeing what I'm seeing because I have a relationship with him. And I think people really not knowing, I'm part of the media, right? So if I see something, I'm going to speak about it. And I think they haven't separated my friendship versus me being an analyst, right? In talking about this. So it was nothing that we had a conversation about. It's the things that I'm seeing my friend and what he's displaying in front of the media. And when you go into the press conference and you're talking about, everything that transpires, when you say you find out 45 minutes in the game 7 that JT wasn't playing, as a player, I'm going to be frustrated about that.
Yeah.
When you look at the roster or the lineup that was rolled out in a game 7, as a player, I'm going to be frustrated with that. And that's me speaking. So I don't know if y'all feel will have that same sentiment if your coach, the organization comes to you and say one of your guys, your main guy, is not playing 45 minutes before a game 7. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would be if it took that long to come to a final decision if I'm going to play or not. But if everybody knew and I didn't know, and you let me know 45 minutes before, then now I'm as the guy who got to go out there and lead that, I'm going to feel the way. But if nobody knew, you know what I mean, and it just happened 45 minutes before, then I'm cool with that too. To me, when I hear Joe Mazzulla presser, when I hear Brad Stevens presser, to me that's two different kind of ways of thinking. Joe Mazzulla is with the process and going through this and trying to figure this out. With Brad, he got to win. He want to win right now. He said in his own presser that, listen, something got to give. We can't shoot like that. We can't not be able to penetrate the gaps and score the basketball. Yeah, we can do everything else, but there's certain things that we as a team have to address. And I think this offseason, it's going to be some big conversations. Everybody got to sit down and really try to figure this out. You have cap space. You have room to make some moves. You have to make moves. You know, you said JB is not frustrated. You said JT is. They all good. So let's figure that out, and let's get this roster situated.
It just sounds like to me a discussion, a roundtable discussion of the three of them, you know, Brad Stevens and JT and JB, or just well, first and foremost, JB and Brad Stevens, I think, need to have that conversation. Are we good? Where are we? What do we need to do? What does the future look like? And I think you go from there, because I feel like we've seen JT and JB have had a conversation just to kind of ease the tension for playing. Now we need to, I think that conversation needs to be had. And I mean, we say that, some people are like, oh, no, he shouldn't have to. Well, yeah, at this point, I think that conversation needs to be had just for the good of the organization, not to appease us, but I think the organization to figure out, like you said, what direction are we going to?
But another thing, let's not act like his frustration is new. Like, he came on our show, and I've held this for years. When he came to the house voicing that he was at a crisis, right? And I had that conversation with him about staying with JT, and they ultimately won a championship. But nobody knew he came to my house and we had that discussion. He came on this platform and said that. So for everybody to go crazy because I came out and said he's frustrated with organization, no, that's based off of what I'm seeing from my friend.
Yeah, and also, again, like you said earlier, not too many people know your relationship with him. Not too many people know the conversations that you have with him, be it good or bad, and really trying to help him figure this out. This is a new situation for Jaylen. Even though he's a champion, this is a new situation for him.
But my point to that is, if I'm having a conversation with JB about his future, that is staying between us, right? So I think people took what I said
as
is like
we had,
like that came from JB.
Good point. That's a
I
great
didn't
point.
have a conversation with JB. Like I said, I'm seeing his behavior in the first round against Philly. I'm seeing the frustration. I'm listening to the comments. I'm seeing him go on his live stream. That's where I'm getting my information from, just like everybody else. And I made a statement. Yeah, my brother is frustrated with the organization based off of what I'm seeing. That's not a conversation I had with him. I would never. You guys won't know. You guys won't know what we're talking about. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Warriors Nation News. Dub Nation, let me ask you something that should make every Warriors fan pause for a second. What if the move that gives Stephen Curry one more real shot in the West is not a center, not another aging rental, not a low-risk bench fix, but a real swing for Jaylen Brown? Because once you say that out loud, the basketball fit starts getting very serious very fast. And no, this is not official, and no, nobody credible is reporting that Brown to Golden State is done. But the noise around his future is real, and the reason fans are talking is simple. Brown just came off a huge season. Boston's offseason is getting complicated, and Golden State still needs another true two-way star next to Steph. Reuters reported Steve Kerr spent the aftermath of the season discussing the future with team leadership, and the Warriors are heading into a summer where light adjustments may not be enough anymore. If you still believe Steph has one more real push left in him, then the front office has to think bigger, not reckless, but bigger. Brown is one of the rare names that actually matches that urgency. Basketball-wise, this fit is loud. Steph gives you gravity. Jaylen gives you force. Steph stretches the floor until a defense breaks shape. Jaylen attacks the broken shape. Steph pulls two defenders 30 feet from the basket. Jaylen gets cleaner lanes, cleaner closeouts, cleaner transition chances. And in the West, that matters like crazy. Because if Golden State added a wing who can score near 30 a night, defend multiple positions, pressure the rim, and still survive playoff physicality, the Warriors would stop looking like a sentimental final chapter and start looking like a team nobody wants to draw. That is the part fans should really lock into. Brown would not just help Steph, he would change the way the West has to prepare for Golden State. Boston's current competitive plans are still built around Brown, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard after major payroll decisions, which tells you how valuable Brown still is. If a move like this ever became real, it would be franchise shifting, not cosmetic. And let's be honest, it would cost a lot. Boston would not move a player like that for nothing. Golden State would have to make a painful offer, and the Celtics would have to believe their own core had hit its limit or needed a different shape. That is why I'm not going to sit here and sell you fantasy as fact. But as a basketball idea, as an off-season scenario worth taking seriously, absolutely. Because Brown is exactly the kind of player who could help Steph now while also giving the Warriors a powerful bridge into the next era after Curry. That is rare, really rare. So here's my take, loud and clear, and yes, favorable to the Warriors. If a real Jaylen Brown path opens, Golden State should be aggressive, not desperate, aggressive. Because adding Brown would give the Warriors something they badly need in the West, another star who can create, defend, finish through contact, and take pressure off Steph without killing the identity of the team. That is a move that could raise their ceiling immediately. Dub Nation, tell me right now, if the Warriors had a real chance to trade for Jaylen Brown, would you go all in, or is the cost too high even for one more serious run with Steph? Drop your take in the comments, hit like, and subscribe to Warriors Nation News.